Hello! Welcome to Bad at Board Games. My name's Brad Lake, and I'm bad at board games, so you don't have to be. Today we're going to be talking about Federation. Great, wonderful little Euro. Maybe not little, but we'll be talking about it. Stick around, find out what my BGG rating is, what the value rating is, pros, cons, a little bit of a turn overview, quick, and see if this is a game for you. We're going to start off with the designer. We have three of them help create this. This is from Eagle Griffin Games, so the production value is high. We've got Dimitri Perrier, and then Matthew Verdier, and Miguel Combra. The theme is the Galactic Senate. I like to think when I first saw this on Kickstarter, I kind of thought like, oh, this would be kind of cool. Thinking of like the Star Wars Senate and all the pods floating around. You know, they've got this kind of look going on here. So it kind of made me think like there's definitely some influence going on from the Star Wars realm. They just don't have to pay these Star Wars IP. But you're in the Senate. You're trying to influence and become, like the chancellor for the dark side, of course. But then you have your left side Senate voting and your right side Senate voting. And it kind of all plays out before you, and you've got the different planets that are working to try to influence to get your victory points. The mechanisms in this game are you have 4 workers, and they have variable voting power, and they're also two-sided. This side gives you resources, and this side allows you to vote for those planets, and it's just, I should say, the planets that you're placing out. So it's got a voting mechanism, but you're voting based on where you're placing your workers, and if you choose to use the numbered side or the resource side of your worker. And then it's variable setup. You're going to have different resources that come out on the board and different abilities that come out, and it's randomly placing things out on the board. The main area of the map does not change, but just the surrounding planets and such, and as well as the in-game scoring. And then we have in-game bonuses that you can acquire as a mechanism, and then end of round scoring. And they say it's like area majority, area influence, but really it ends up being whoever has the highest number votes going left to right in a row in the Senate will get victory points for that. So it's kind of one of those gray areas. Is it area majority? Is it area influence? Is it something else? This is 2 to 4 player game. It does not have a solo, and my best player count, I would say in person, I've enjoyed it at 3. Online with BGA, 4 is fine. But I think in that 3 to 4 range, if you're playing less than 4 people, you're going to be having blockers that come out on the Senate map, and they move around. So it is always going to feel like there's 4 players. You're not just going to have this open board to be able to place things wherever you want. You're going to have AI, so to speak, where randomly picking, does it go on the left or does it go on the right? And so you may not have the planet available unless you take like a spy action or something. The time, so they say 30 minutes per player. You might be able to get down to that. I don't think it takes a long time to play, but it's been more like 45 minutes per player. So it's not a 3-hour game at 3. I taught it to new people just this last Wednesday, and it was a 3-player game, and we finished it up with the teach in under 3 hours. It's probably like 2 hours, 45 minutes, and that was with the teach. So I think the half an hour is probably pushing it, but somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes, probably plan on 45 minutes per player starting out. And then the turn is not that difficult. You have 4 workers, and they're sitting on your tableau, and you have to place one of these out on the Senate board, and you're going to place them on, there's a planets, or there's a place to get influence on your tableau, or there's a track on your tableau. It's not necessarily influence. And a few other things. You can get more ships that help you unlock your tableau. We've got the first player area, but then that also gives you a coin, and these coins allow you to get more victory points at the end of the game. But they don't help you like in the influence and resources and things like that. So really, you're just taking this, placing it down on the board, and then as an option, you have spaceships somewhere, wherever they're at. I don't know where I put the little spaceship chips, but there are chips that have little spaceships on them, and then you can, if you meet the requirements, place those spaceships on your board. And that's pretty much it. The complexity comes into what do all these spaces do? What are all the little mini games? How are you trying to, it's not necessarily engine building, but there is a bit of an engine that you can create. So how are you finagling that? We've got a few of us that like struggle to build that up, and then there's one of our friends that is like skyrocketing to the moon. It's like, how did he get 50 points this turn? But that's it. So like the initial learning the game, there is a lot. It's all the mini pieces that you're looking at. When you look here on the board, the left and the right on the Senate are pretty much the same. There's 9 worker placement spaces you can go. There are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets, and the planets are out and around the Senate board here. Each one has a unique specialty, right? So the blue planet is like the mysticism, sorcerers, and they give you bonuses, one-time bonuses that you can attach to your worker to increase their value and get some resources, but only when you choose to play that. The yellow planet allows you to trade something to get something better. And then the green planet is kind of like where you can start building your engine, but it's not necessarily a cheap thing to initiate. And then they also have mega structures, which are some big in-game bonus multipliers if you play it right. And then we have, the orange is pretty much just a resource area as you're going down that, and you can get gems, and the further you move on that track, the more gems you get. And we talked about, and then the pink planet, or the fuchsia planet, whatever color that is, they give you, you can get cards, and then those cards allow you to then do something maybe on another planet or something like that. So in the pink planet, you have like the yellow and the blue and the green and the pink and the orange, and there's a representative from that planet, diplomat, so to speak, and you're able to use that ability at specific times during the game. So kind of crazy. There's a lot going on with this. The other thing at the end of your round, so you're going to be picking or voting on 2 different planets that come up. They'll be down here, and so you have the left-hand side of the Senate, and if this orange planet is sitting here, you're basically voting to pass this as a law or something. And then on the right-hand side, we have the yellow planet, and whichever total, as everybody plays, you're going to count up the votes on your workers, and then you're going to say like, okay, which one of these 2 planets passed the law, right? And then for the influence that you have with that planet, you're going to get 2 victory points, 2x victory points times the influence you have. And you get influence for those planets based on going and visiting and sending your worker to those planets. So everybody's kind of vying for these, there's only 2 yellows, and if yellow came up and you got 4 players playing there, not everybody's going to be able to get influence with yellow. So some people might be pushing for the orange side to get it because they have more influence there, or the yellow side, or you may just be trying to make sure that somebody has a ton of influence and one of these planets doesn't get it. So they start pulling away on the victory points. Um, Pros and cons. So the interactions going on with this board, you've got, you know, 5 planets, and you've got the Senate board, and in the Senate board, you've got the left hand and the right hand side, and then you even have some joint projects that are going on at the top of the Senate. Like all these interactions is like within the worker placement framework, and then you have your tableau. I I find fascinating. I enjoy it. I'm like, you know, it, I kind of feel like, I am voting on this stuff, and how am I going to race up these tracks, and how am I going to get the influence I need and the resources I need to do everything that I want to do? And there's just so much to do. Um, I like how they've pulled all that together, and in the theme, this isn't like steeped in theme, but I still kind of feel like, yeah, I am voting for these things. I am trying to get this. I am trying to get the resources from these specific planets and things. So, that's a pro. I've got lots of pros. The double-sided workers, awesome when you can have a worker that serves two purposes. I can either vote on something, or if I flip it over, and some of the higher ones, like this will give me a resource, and they all give you a check mark, and the check mark is another mini game going on where you have to cover. You don't have to cover, but if you want to be able to do these actions on your tableau, you have to have a check mark there first. After you have a check mark there, and you have enough status, so to speak, on your tableau on the left, then you can place a spaceship there and then take that action again. So this gives you another worker placement-ish area that mimics what's out here on the board. And then there's also extra ways to get victory points, especially if you get all the way to the top of the track. You can get kind of like a deep space mission tiles that they have, and you get to look through that and see which one best works for you and get the most victory points for that. There's all these things going on, which is good and bad, depending on how you look at it. The other pro, and this is just like all of it. So like you have this escalation of a ramp engine. If you're able to get the Green Planet engine going for you, then it starts giving you resources or starts giving you something at the beginning of the round, which then helps you continue to move forward. So there is this engine building thing that is actually in this, and then moving up on the tableau track, like I was saying, and I probably should just get rid of those, but moving up on this track, which gives you more victory points based on if you're winning the votes in certain areas over here, and then just being able to have more actions here, especially maybe if you get blocked out here. But then at the same time, to do that, you need the checkbox, and then you need a spaceship, and you don't just have an abundance of spaceships. There's other places out here that will let you unlock spaceships. So it's like, how are you? It doesn't feel tight because there's so many things to do, but at the same time, sometimes when you want to do something, you don't have the ability to do it. You're racing to get influence so that, as you're voting out here in the Senate floor, you get 2 times this. The other mini game that's going out on the Senate floor is that the rows, so you have 3 rows across left and right. If you have the majority voting influence on that row, you're going to get victory points based on what level you are on this. So it's not a lot, but it can be something you don't want to miss out on. So, it forces you to kind of like, am I going to try to make sure I get the the points because I'm going left to right? Or do I just not worry about it and make sure I'm getting the thing I need to maybe set myself up for the next round? And I talked about the deep space tile that allows you to, like, it's a pretty powerful, feels pretty good kind of victory point kind of thing that you can get it after you've gotten all the way up to the top. The mega structure, so over here on the the right of the megastructures, which is the green planet, you get this ability, like, well, I guess it's more the in-game multiplier, right? So there's 4 of them, and then if you're the first person to be able to pay for that, because you're using resources to pay to get those victory points, um, you're going to get, if you're the first person, you're going to get 3 times the influence, but then there's 2 influences that has you choose from, but it's going to take the lowest. So like this first one has a yellow planet and your worker dice, which is another aspect to the game. Um, Whichever one is lower, you're going to take 3 times that number and get victory points for that. And so, you know, as you look at how you're trying to pace the game, how things are unraveling, you know, which one of these over here could you get? And like if it's only 6 victory points, that's all right. But like, you want 10 or 20, or, you want the multiplier to really work for you. And how do you leverage that? And you have to work a track of 2 things versus just like, I'm going to go for one. And then that's going to give me like, 36 points or something like that. It's going to take the lower of the 2. um, the planets are unique. Each one is very specific. One's giving you resources as you move for it. One's allowing you to trade up and get some more things for it in a good way. One is giving you some more diplomats that can influence or do something with the other planets. One's giving you resources that can increase the ability of your workers and give you more things instead of just being a 1. It may give you a 2 and some resources, some gems that go with it. And then you have the mega planet where, half of the mega planets are an engine, but then it's kind of like, how do I get those resources to then, be able to place a worker on that spot? So every round I get the engine piece, and then the end of game, bigger victory point options. I just find all that fascinating. And then there's a dice on top of this. So you can get this little dice, unlock it from one of the worker placement boards here, and then that adds to your worker value. Like this is a 3, you could change it to a 5, or it would allow you to add to that. So this 3 plus 2 on the dice will be 5, and you can increase that assistant worker up to 6. Like there's just all these things you can do, and I find it fascinating. I find it enjoyable. I like the fact that, like if you're comparing something to Lisboa or some of these other ones, sometimes they can get too deep. For me, I guess this is kind of a nice mixture of like, I'm going to place a worker in an area, and then I'm going to be able to go and do this mini game over here. But then how all that stuff melds together to then try to ramp up your victory points, and and like that's the hard part. Like, yeah, you can get some points, but it's like trying to parlay all this stuff on top of each other. But I've just really enjoyed it. Cons. So if you do not watch the gems that you have, at the end of the round, you have to pay for each level that you want to be on. And if you deplete your gems, I did this once. Normally I'm always watching this, but if you actually don't have any gems and you're like at the top, you will fall all the way down to level 2 because you don't have any gems to pay. You will fall down. If you had to pay it blue gem, which is one of the most expensive, and you only have a green, you're going to drop down to the lowest part, not even to the highest part of this section. So that is brutal. They definitely want you to like make sure you keep your resource production up. So I don't think that's a real con, but I just think I wanted to let you guys know, like that is that's happened to me once. I dropped all the way down after I was getting ready to set up my next turn, but I used up all my gems and I couldn't get any more gems. It was like, no, it was horrible. A real con, I would say, is they have these spaces up here. They're called joint projects, and then once a joint project is to the end of the track and it starts moving a major joint project. It's in the middle. I think that doesn't add to the game. I think it kind of like takes away from it a little bit because you're like, oh yeah, I got to do that, and it's more of an afterthought. Once towards the end of the game, these projects start to get to their end of their track and start pushing your marker up in the middle. It does have some victory points. Like if you're first, you can get 16, and second you get 8, and third you get 4. I don't. I thought that. I think it's. I don't know why it's there. Honestly, I think that's the one mechanism, that it didn't add anything to the game. It's just another way I think for somebody to potentially squeak out a few more points, but the person's probably squeaking out those points is probably the one in the lead already. And I don't know if it's going to change. It's going to come down to that part of the game to win or lose. So that would be the only con I kind of have about the game, is that I think that's not really needed. The And I haven't found it to be an issue, but like, that you have to place check marks on here before you can then place your ships on there. I think that's another one. It's just a mechanic to try to slow you down, make sure that you're not just playing everything on this side of the worker. You have to place it on the coin side, and that gives you a little check mark. Thing goes here. Could there have been something a little bit more unique than a check that goes here? Probably. Does it bother me that much? No. All right, moving right along. The weight rating on this in BGG is a 3.7. My weight rating on this, I would say it's like a 3.75. And the complexity doesn't come into like I said, you can place this somewhere. It's learning what all the planets do. Like the orange planet and the blue planet are simple. You go there, you move your little worker that's on that planet forward, and then you pick a resource. That one's fairly easy. The trading up one can get a little bit squirrely because it's, you place one there, and then the next time you place one in the exact same spot, it goes to the next level up. So then it's kind of like, okay, once you get it, but it's not intuitive. The pink planet's pretty intuitive. You're going to grab a worker, but then you may not understand what that worker does because there's a lot of them and you need kind of a cheat sheet for that. So those, I guess, are some cons. But like, all in all, probably the green planet and the mega structures are going to be one of the things like, oh, once you wrap your head around it and like, oh, I figured out the puzzle and to be able to do that, not so bad. But then it's really these joint projects that are kind of screwy. Everything else seems pretty straightforward other than that. So that's a long explanation to say I think it's a 3.75. I don't think it's a 4. I really think once you get into the Lacerdas and things of that nature, and I think this is just shy of that. And so I think it might be a little bit more accessible, but like bringing all that together to get the points is going to be the challenging part. Value rating. So let's see. You can get this without the deluxe edition. So the deluxe edition comes with wooden tokens, kind of the Lost Ruins of Arnak, gems for resources versus the cardboard chits. And then you get the iron clays for your workers versus a cardboard chit. But the base game without those is $72. And I mean, if this game were $50, this would be a 5 out of 5. If it was, the base game was $100, I'd probably be saying it's definitely more in that 2.5 range. It's not going to be a 1. Anything over 100, I would start to say it would be a value of 1. But even compared to Great Western Trail, right? Like Great Western Trail's in this $70 range now. So I think at $72 for the base game, for the experience you're getting, for the Euro game that you're getting out of this, you're looking at a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's a good value. I think, I enjoy Great Western Trail. I think the components are comparable, if not even a little bit better. They come with some nice thermoform boxes that you can kind of like sort things into. You're still going to have bags and things that you're going to separate your player tokens into. But all in all, double layer board, Eagle Griffin makes some nice choices. Now, the deluxe version is $100, and I think it's nice. These wooden tokens didn't do much for me. I do like the gems, not gonna lie, but at $100, when you can get the base game for 72, I don't think the experience is that much better. Like I think if these tokens might have been metal, for the coins that you have, that would have been cool. But $100, I'm gonna give it a 3.5, and it doesn't just destroy. It's not so expensive like a $150 game like some of the other games that Eagle Griffin has. But at the same time, it's not like you need the upgrades. You kind of have to decide that for yourself. So if you're just wanting to get something to the table and enjoy the game and enjoy the experience, go with the retail $72 one. If you kind of like want some bling, another $30 or so, you can get the deluxe. But your experience isn't going to stay the same or increase by that extra amount of money. BGG ranking. So BGG has this sitting at an 8 out of 10, and that's with 1,800 votes. Not the most votes, but this has been out a couple years now. Tom Vassell is one of his. I think it was one of his top 10 this year. It's probably one of the few, if only, Euro games he likes, and he likes it because it is pretty. It is good looking. It's nice on the table, and still gives you all that crunchiness of a Euro game. I'm sitting at like an 8.5 and a 9. I really like this game. I'm playing it on BGA. I'm playing it on the table. When I can, I want to play this game. May play it with Toph when he shows up today. So, I think this is just a really nice implementation of a Euro game. And if you're looking for something new and different, I kind of feel like it is. I think they've done a really, really nice job with this. I wish I would have backed it the first time. But at the same time, I was like backing a bunch of stuff at that moment, and I wasn't sure if the gameplay was really going to hold up, and I thought I'd pass, and then was hearing good things about it, and I still wasn't sure. And then it came on to BGA, and I was able to play it on BGA, and I'm like, yeah, this is my kind of game. This is definitely something that I want, and I want to be able to play it and introduce it to my game group as well as play it on BGA. So I've played both. Have several plays of this in now, and I can recommend it. If you like the games that I like, you can kind of resonate with that, I would recommend this game to you. So what do you think? I know a few people already like this game. They've posted on, that I was doing a video on this already and saying they love the game. But have you played it? Have you tried it online? Where are you at with this game? Or it's just like, no, the Euro game isn't for me. I would really like to know. So just remember, no matter how you play, whether it's solo, with family, or friends, enjoy whatever you are bringing to the table. Have a great night.